Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from GTD Nordic. I am still Morten and Røvik, and as always I'm here with my good friend and colleague Lars Rothschild Henriksen. Tere Lars.
Tere, Mr. Røvik. Good to see you, and as always looking forward to recording another episode for all of the GTDers and GTD curious listeners and viewers out there. We always start off by reminding everyone of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers. So we hope that today's episode supports you in that. If you're new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to episodes 1 through 6 of this podcast to get an introduction to the basics of GTD. And today's episode number is number 66. And the topic of the day we've dubbed Hybrid Meeting Survival Guide.
Exactly. In this modern age of hybrid meetings, I'm sure a few of you have been in them and felt their shortcomings. So I'm trying to put together the best practices so that you can get effective hybrid meetings in your company and in your life and reality. So Lars, have you had hybrid meetings yourself? Have you done them?
When we started talking about doing this topic for today's podcast, the first thing that came to mind was actually an online session that I did as part of my trainer certification. So I did my first test seminar for a company that I was consulting for back in the day, back in 2014, 2015. And the implementation session that we did afterwards, so supporting the attendees in getting set up in Outlook, we did that remotely. And it was hybrid in the sense that I was remote and everyone else, I think 12, 15 people, were gathered in a meeting room. So I was, coming through the speaker, the big, conference room phone in the middle of the room. I was on the big screen and trying to manage that and walk everyone through that. And it was a learning experience. Let's put it that way. It really was not a good way to do that. So really learned from that. All those different, unique questions that came up around the table. And sorry, Lars, we're struggling with this part. And hey, I need to help with this part. And it really was it was a long, long session. So learned that kind of mix was not very good for me.
No.
So yes, I've tried that.
yes, we have. Now I've done the same. A client did not tell me that when we are going to do a virtual keynote, they decided that some of them would be remote together and some will be remote single, and that is really where you are cut off from the internal humor at the table. You can't see everybody. They're just this little square on your screen where you can see a lot of dots that represents human beings, but you don't see their reactions. So, and that is leads us very gently into which meetings works best, or which meeting types works best. And my suggestion to this is that regular in-person meetings are still best. They work the best. That is, if they have a good agenda, that they are thought through, so that they can be, our regular. We did an episode on meetings in general, but this is about the hybrid meetings. But at the same time, it is very important that if you do a, physical meeting or a hybrid meeting, please make sure that you have a good agenda, that you have thought through why this meeting is important. And make sure that the meeting becomes the best meeting it can be for the people there. So, but first, regular meetings in person works the best. Then second best, or least good. Then I don't know how to say this, because we could have called it the worst or something like that. But regular meetings is still the best way of doing things. Digital meetings is number 2, where everyone sits remote, and then hybrid meetings where some people are remote, some people are in the room. In a conference room with more than one person in that conference room. And I will tell you why we think this is so. But it is, if you use your common sense and start looking at meetings with the eye that we should reduce friction and enhance communication, because a meeting is about communication, and technology can be the friction for that, so it's not efficient meetings. And so if you look at the meetings where you have remote workers working from home office, are on a video conference solution at work, where they are in the meeting with the others that are sitting around the table. That becomes, which in the pre-show we were trying to find a way to say this, because there is an expression in Norwegian that Lars didn't know existed in Danish, at least not on top of his head. But this it will be a class divider. So you have the first class is the people who are in the room, who are the attending, and they are communicating physical to each other. And the second class passengers are those remote. They are often forgotten, or if not ignored, hopefully not ignored and forgotten, but they don't feel like they are first class passengers in these meetings. They often go second class. So I'm going to try and give you my notes, because I made a lot of notes on this. The more I read about it, the more wise I feel I am a little after reading something. So this is what I found, and what is anyway very important. Just a quick recap what we think is general good meeting rules. Is ask yourself if this meeting is strictly necessary before sending out a notice. Summon only those who must participate. Send out an agenda before the meeting if this is relevant. Follow up on issues that the previous meeting decided to do something about. And in the meetings where you are in the driver's seat for that, drive whatever you need forward. Decide on the desired outcomes, next actions, who's responsible, when should it be finished, and then send out meeting minutes after the meetings, a recap of what you have decided to do. So those are the general meeting rules as I've written them down. Do you have any additions to this, Lars, that comes to mind?
I think that covers it pretty well. We know that these meetings, in order for them to be productive, we do need to have those components in place with a good, clear purpose, clear agendas, or at least people bringing their agendas, wrapping up the meetings with good, clear outcomes, next actions, who owns it, when are we going to move forward on them. So I think we can refer at least people for those kind of details. We did a more in-depth dive into that in episode 60 called Great Meetings with GTD. So curious about that one, and head on back to episode 60.
Yes. So and what I've gathered here, there are some tips and tricks what I think you should consider doing. And might want to stop and ask you what you think about this, Lars, to give me a comment. But when you are to not have this first and second class passengers in your meeting, make sure that those, if you are considering doing what we call a true hybrid meetings, defined as somebody is remote, somebody is in a meeting room, is to ask and this is what I call best practices for this, is ask people remote for comments before asking people in the room. If you do that as your policy is that you always ask the remote people first and get them, do a round. Hey Lars, what do you think? Hey Ole, what do you think? Hey Kari, what do you think? And make sure that they are heard first. That means you will, erase a little of the second class feeling because they feel that they are, important participants in the meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good point. Absolutely, yeah, and because what we will often find is that just the tiny latency and the in the voice and the inability to clearly read people's faces in that exact moment where you speak it. It's that's a great tip to make sure that you check in with them first to at least make it as good a meeting as possible when it's a hybrid one.
Yeah. And my second tip is if you're going to use a whiteboard or a flip over to illustrate something, make sure that you are doing that digitally. There, both Microsoft and Google has digital whiteboards. It's Microsoft Whiteboard, part of the Office 365 suite. You can use that.
And Teams,
in Teams, yes, and Google Jamboard also exists that you can use if you're in the Googleverse. So do a digital variant instead of a physical one, because it's really difficult to see unless you have a 5K camera or something, really good lighting, and the way and these cameras exists. They're not very often you see them, but they exist, and you can even zoom in on something that you would like to see. Take the control of the camera, but that's not very often. Normally, if you are just at regular fixed camera, you can't do something. So use a whiteboard that everybody can see. My third tip is that when you are working together or looking at a document, use a share variant of that, like a share document in Google Docs or a share notebook in OneNote, so everybody can see the same thing, so that you can follow what you are sharing, and if you're going to edit that, everybody can see the edits live. That makes a big difference, and the feeling of being part of this, everybody is on the same page. Any comments? Does that make sense as well?
No, that also echoes how we use it internally. So for example, when I have let's say meetings with Espen, we have a shared document that we go through with in the regular monthly status meetings. So we have some common topics that we always walk through. We use the Google Suite internally, which means that we can see when people join the document, and I don't know if there's some kind of psychological effect or what it is, but it's nice to see that, I click my way in there and I see, there's Espen and there's his, cursor or whatever it might be. So you kind of see that collaboration virtually going on, and I think that works well.
Yeah, and another thing I like about Google Docs is that you can, and Google Sheets, that you can be warned or notified if somebody changes the document. So if you're part of a meeting, you can't attend, somebody changes the agenda document, or there's a document where you write down the meeting notes, then you will be notified by email that actually changed, and or you can set that up to be notified. That's an added bonus.
Yeah, helpful feature, definitely.
I'm not sure if OneNote has that, but maybe it's something you can look at if you're interested.
I do believe that is the case, that you can get the notifications when things change there as well.
Yeah. Okay, so something that you might consider, because if you are having the possibility to have if you have an open landscape where you have smaller meeting rooms, maybe you should consider that everybody, instead of having people physically in the room, is making it a remote meeting instead of a hybrid meetings. I know that people love to be together now that Corona is lifting, at least here in our region of the world. People want to meet physically, and of course, but then you are then first and second class passengers. So maybe if you have the possibility to do it remote for everybody, that's better for everybody, actually. So
absolutely. But one of the challenges is, and I saw that with a large global organization that I worked with earlier this year, is that then you take up, you might end up taking up a meeting room just because you need to attend, but then the 4 other people will sit in separate meeting rooms. So that then starts to maybe challenge the number of meeting rooms that you have available. So, but that is certainly a good tip. A good way to do it is to really separate out, so we all become equal participants in this virtual meeting as opposed to the hybrid version.
And another best practice is that if you are doing hybrid meetings, to make sure everybody is on an equal footing or as much as possible, maybe consider if you are the caller of the meeting, you are the meeting leader. If I don't know, that's called in English, meeting leader. What do you call that?
Sure.
Yeah, the leader of the meeting, at least the one who's responsible for the meeting. Maybe you should be remote, so that you are second class passenger. So that when you are doing the meeting, you are being very aware of the limitations of the remote participants. Maybe at a better, a higher level of consciousness towards the remote people. What do they see, and how? Because you will be very aware of very quickly that you will not be able to follow exactly what goes on in the room, unless we get some really good camera systems that can do that. You will not.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are doing a hybrid meeting, I'm suggesting that if you have a round table or an oval table or even a square table, is that you gather people around one corner facing as much as possible the camera. So that if you are 4 people in a room, don't sit around the table, but try and cluster yourself so that everybody can see through the camera. So because I've seen meetings where people are half turned away from the camera, so you can't see their faces fully. And so make sure that you are turning your face towards the camera and that you're as close as possible to your colleagues, so that the camera can zoom in on you if possible, so that we can get the better. The facial expressions are the first casualty of meetings like this, and you should try and keep the casualty count down so that it gets a better meeting. So and sometimes when you are, and I read about this, and this also makes sense for me, is that when you have remote meetings, that it's not just 15 minutes. It gets tiresome, especially for I don't know, and this is not me suggesting. This is science, or at least there's research saying this, that women get more tired than men of hybrid meetings. And I don't know if this is, and I don't know, this is not peer-reviewed research, I think, but it was a claim, let's call it that is true. And I hope I don't make all our female listeners angry at me now, but maybe if I'm going to speculate on if that is true, why? And then I think it might be because of women are more conscious on how they look. Men don't care as much as how we look, as long as we are more or less shaven and look okay. It's okay. You have a shirt on, you combed your hair, and voila, you're ready for a meeting. While a woman getting ready for a meeting, especially if you're in hybrid, it's you need to put your makeup on, you have to do your hair, you have to put something nice, and you are more conscious on how you look than maybe men are. I don't know if I offended all women, but I hope not. But if that is true, and I suggest that you go, if you feel that if you get tired of seeing yourself, you can hide yourself, the hide self view. Most both in Teams and in Zoom, you can hide self view, which means that you don't have to look at yourself. Everybody else will see you, but you can hide yourself, so you don't have to look at you. So I don't know if this is symptomatic, but I don't see me now. My meeting is on top of me, so I don't see me. So, what do you think about this? Is this correct?
No, I think I would maybe. I also I don't know, and I don't know about the study and all that. I think it's maybe more that some people tend to be more focused on reading other people's faces, emotions, trying to understand what's going on. And perhaps that trait is more common in women than in men. At least I know that I'll be more blind to that than for example, my wife. But I do know also from studies in general that, it is very, very, mentally exhausting to see all those people's faces and try to read all of them on the screen at the same time, including your own. So, so that's certainly an aspect as well.
Yeah, exactly. But what I alluded to is, of course, that you see yourself. If you're tired to see you, you're focusing on, how does my hair look? Do I look okay when I smile? How does everybody? How did I come across? Self-awareness on how you look. So not what everybody else's look. But yeah, of course, everything is more difficult through a camera. It's easier to read a facial expression or a body language, a movement in the chair, if you can see the whole body and in 3D and not in 2D and just the head. So that is more or less what I had on my meetings notes for make a let's call it hybrid meetings can suck less. And so that's our survival guide as such. Anything to add, Lars, that you've thought, why didn't he mention this?
No, I think just overall the key takeaway, of course, the specific suggestions that you made, and overall the thinking is to be very aware of these and to be very disciplined when it comes to hybrid meetings. So see if you can avoid them. If you can't avoid them, see if you can somehow make them better with the tips that you came up with. So no, I think that's it. But I would, as always, ask our listeners as well. So these are the thoughts from Morten and myself. But what are your experiences when it comes to good meetings? Can they be hybrid? If that's the case, how do you then manage them? Any other tips that we could add, and then we'll follow up with that in a future episode.
Yeah, send us an email at podcast@gtdnordic.dk. What are your best tips for how can a hybrid meeting suck less? So that's what we are asking now, aren't we? So
that would be great to learn from you guys.
Yeah, indeed. So are we ready to say it's a little shorter episode? We are around 22 minutes, but good. It's short and sweet, but to the point. Take us out, Lars.
And when Morten says that, he refers to me saying that we always wrap up these episodes with a quick reminder to head on over to gtdnordic.com to have a look around, because on that site you will find the links to the country websites for each of the Nordic countries, and on each of those you can find articles about GTD, links to the newsletters, groups on social media, and of course all of the different offerings regarding speeches, coaching, and seminars, both the virtual and the physical ones. If you are outside the Nordics, gettingthingsdone.com is the place to go to find your local partner. And also just a quick reminder to have a look at gtdsummercamp.com.
Yes.
So this is a place to go to learn more about the nonprofit summer camp that we have for GTDers in the Nordics and in the world in general. It'll take place in the Nordics, more specifically in Denmark in June. Morten and I will be there. We have participants now from 8 different countries, as far as I'm up to date. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll certainly level up your GTD game. So have a look at that. And we hope to see you there.
Yeah, indeed. Hold that thought. I just want to make a short comment there, because I really enjoyed last year. We did it last year as well, and what I enjoyed a lot was the diversity of people coming. There were people who are just fresh to GTD, somebody who's been doing it for years after years, decades even, and just coming together for a short weekend and to discuss what we love and feel is helping us, and you will up your game. You will hang out with like-minded people, and it is as cheap as possible. We all work for free. I travel there. Lars travel there for free. We don't, not for free, but I wish we could travel for free. But we are doing it for our own machine and our own wallet, and we give our time away. So if you want to hang out with us, and learn from me and Lars, but also all the other people who are going to do stuff there, please consider coming. I would love to see you all. And if you are outside the Nordics, or the summer camp is in Denmark, go outside. We have people for what do you know on top of your head what nations we are seeing people from? Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland.
Yeah, exactly.
Iceland, maybe.
Yeah, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Estonia, Netherlands, Germany, the US. I think is the list right now.
Oh, cool.
So even across the pond.
Yes, it is. So if you consider that, go to gtdsummercamp.com, gtdsummercamp.com, and sign up. It's going to be a blast. So now, Lars, back to you.
Now I will say my last line, which is that we really hope that you find these episodes valuable. If this episode or GTD in general has made a difference in your life, then please consider helping us spreading the message to more people by giving the podcast a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. It really helps the discoverability of the podcast. More people will learn GTD, and that's why we're here. So thanks.
Well, until next time, people, stay safe and stay productive. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.